Hey, good people. I welcome you. I'm Alex Gunda, and this is Family Life. It's a moment where we get to talk about issues that affect families, issues to do with families, relationships within families. And on this particular program, we have been dealing with conflict and we dealt with conflict identification. Remember, every conflict that you have has got a supporting source. That is not the current situation, but that is the previous situation. At times we tend to overlook some of the offenses that happens as we live with our spouses and we think we have resolved, and yet they sit at the bottom of the heart. This is the reason why you will see just by a small misunderstanding, someone erupts and you wonder, is this about this simple thing? So it is very important, like we said on the last episode, when you have a conflict, before you approach this, you deal with this conflict, you must make efforts to try and investigate the source of the conflict. Remember, some people, they are coming from abusive relationships, or maybe they were cheated in the past relationship. And the approach that they are always doing to you is always in response to the past event that happened with the past spouse. Your wife, your husband was cheated and they moved out. And when they are dealing with you, they deal with you like you have cheated. If you understand that my spouse, my wife, my husband is coming from that background, it's never going to affect you. But you're going to understand that, oh no, I see. And by just investigating the source of a conflict, it is going to give you the ability to be able to solve that conflict. So this was our episode. This was our discussion last time. Today, let us look at conflict management. And I believe next time we're going to be looking at conflict resolution. So conflict management is when I want to encourage you to be able to contain a conflict. Many people, they are not in charge, but they are controlled by their anger. They are controlled by their emotions. There are many conflicts that we fight over that we were supposed to have discussed in an amicable way. But your failure to manage the situation is what then escalated the situation up to a level that was reversible. Maybe you then divorced your spouse, you divorced your husband, but the main issue was not to divorce, was not to separate. It was to solve something. I want to encourage you to be in charge of every conflict that happens. When you're called to discuss with whether your spouse or your husband, your wife, there is an effort that must be channeled towards containing the situation. Don't let it get out of hand. You must make sure you stick to the issue and never bring other issues into the subject. What is it that we are dealing with? And you make efforts to avoid other issues from spilling into this conflict. Now, you are going to discover that many people, they fight not over conflicts. They fight over the approach. They fight over statements. When you have been offended by someone, you're going to discover that the only problem that is going to disrupt the discussion is the way that you're going to line up your words, the way that you're going to present that offense becomes an offense. So many times you end up fighting over the presentation, fight over the approach, more than you fight over the conflict, the misunderstanding that you had. So it is very, very important that when you want to deal with a conflict, seek understanding, come to your senses, accommodate the other person. When you are offended, don't approach the person from the offensive side. There is this approach that I've found very useful, and I've given it to most of my clients as we are doing counseling sessions. Why don't you say, I feel like this way, more than when you ascertain a certain fact? For example, when you call your spouse and you say the statement that you said when we had visitors, I feel like I was undermined. Don't say you have undermined. Why? Because your feelings are not always the other person's intention. Maybe it's you who felt undermined, but the other part never meant to undermine anyone. So the moment you say to someone, why were you undermining me? Then already that person is ready to defend themselves and say, no, I was never undermining you. I was just saying. But when you say, I feel undermined the time you said things this way, the other person is ready to address the issue from your feelings, not from an accusation point. So your approach to things is going to graduate them into another grade. If you can take a conflict lightly, you're going to discover that it's going to end lightly. If you take it seriously and you don't want to reach a resolution, honestly, that conflict will escalate and you will not like the conclusion. So I encourage you every time when you want to get into a discussion, make sure you're in charge. When one person wants them to rant, make sure you calm them down and say, please, let's talk about this amicably. Don't allow a conversation to heat up. If you want to reach a good resolution, always be sober. Maintain a good environment. It is your responsibility to control a discussion when you are resolving conflict. I say this because many people, they tackle conflicts without the ability to control the discussion, to control the progression, to control the conversation. The words that you used must be very selective. The environment that you use must be very selective. The approach must be selective. Remember, what we want is not to attack the other person, but is to agree with the other person. Like I said before, we see things from different perspectives, and you cannot blame me for my perspective. Remember, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. So when you come to me with an offense, probably it's my opinion that has offended me. Before you talk about your offense, be willing to give me your side. And if you are the one being approached, let's have an open mind approach. Don't just say your side is the good side every time. Be willing to listen. Okay, what are you saying? In a sober mind, before you then begin to build up your muscles to be tense and ready to fight. Maybe the person that is approaching you is not even willing to fight, but is willing to express their feelings, to express their pain. Do you know what? One of the best relationships that one can have is a relationship that they are allowed to express themselves without being judged. Why would you say my offense, I'm being childish? Then we begin to fight over the word childish because you always feel when I tell you I'm offended, maybe it's a childish approach. Why would you say someone grow up when they tell you they've been offended? So these are some of the triggers that then brings the conversation out of control. And like I said many times, we fight not over the conflict, but over what then happens on the table of trying to resolve a conflict. Do you have the ability to resolve that conflict that you've just had with your spouse? It is also needful that when you know you cannot handle it, you can invite a third person. such that the third person can be able to help you control that conflict, manage it in a proper way, keep it in a level that it is manageable. The moment you let it out of control, then you're never going to resolve it, you're never going to agree. So my issue is, when you want to resolve, please make sure you are ready to communicate your offense. As you are communicating your offense, I've often noticed some people, when they present their side of the story, they don't present it as a perspective. They present it as a final view. No, you're doing things the wrong way. It's not the wrong way. It's my way. And by the way, doing things my way is not a bad thing. You can have a way that you prefer doing things, but my way doesn't make it wrong. It's my way. We have to sit down and discuss. Let's agree. Is it about the differences of seeing things, or is it about doing things the wrong way? I can put a chair here, for example. I put it this way, and you think it has to face that way. The difference is just in the way that you do things and the way that I do things. And when we approach that, make sure the discussion is handled well. Choice of words, choice of your tone really contributes to the management of the conflict. What I said, the worst that you see in relationships, it is the lack of management of a conflict that happens. And then the worst happens to the people. You have seen people fighting. They don't start by fighting. Someone comes amicably to try and tell you that, I've been offended by what you said. I've been offended by what you did. And right at that moment when one is not ready to accept someone's view, it then escalates into violence. Why do people then resort to violence? Because they have failed to manage conflict. When there are people, what is it that we're supposed to do? Have you ever had this scenario where you are visiting, maybe it's a restaurant, maybe it's a hotel? Couples went to this place with an intention of enjoying the meals, but you're going to see them leaving that place maybe in different direction. The reason being they have failed to handle a conflict. You see people fighting, and some to an extent of even getting naked, when they'd come to a place where they thought they were going to enjoy. Was it the place that you were going to address that conflict? There are offenses that you're not supposed to address, even the first time they happen. This is managing. If you offend me today, am I supposed to talk to you today? If you are angry, am I supposed to talk to you in that mode? Or I have to find a better time, a better environment, a better approach that I can approach that conflict. So you're at a restaurant, you see people now fighting. Maybe what they are fighting for, they never came fighting. They came smiling. So what you are seeing now is lack of conflict management. You can offend me now, then I can afford to smile. This is management. After I've smiled, it doesn't mean I'm not offended. Listen, you cannot be able to control other people when you can't control yourself. When offenses has happened, there are visitors that we have. My wife has spoken to me in a bad way. Am I able to hold myself and laugh and smile, but not that I'm smiling inside? I know this is not the right time. So there you are. Be able to manage a conflict and wait for the right time, wait for the right place, and get the right approach so that that conflict cannot escalate into a big fight that will then become uncontrollable. This has been what I had for you on conflict management, and I believe you have been blessed. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. You can send them through. We can address them. We can answer them. If you have any contribution, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. It has been my great joy to be with you. Thank you so much.